Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Bertram. Thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. And yes, it's been a really interesting week in the cruise industry, of course, too. One thing that came up that is so sad was actually with Baltimore. You know, we had that container shipping that lost control and it hit the bridge, and unfortunately, some people were passed away, unfortunately. But once again, the big thing too, of course, is besides getting that repair, which is going to take some time, honestly. Some cruise lines actually have been based out of Baltimore. So what cruise lines have been doing to being very proactive is actually temporarily moving their ships to sail out of Baltimore, which they've got to do too. Once again, we have to make sure that that gets taken care of. It's just so sad. Just really brings tears to my eyes. Once again, too. The cruise lines are active and letting people know in advance that they are doing alternatives right now. A good example, I know a Carnival Cruise Line, they've got their Carnival Legend, and they normally operate out of Baltimore, but what they're doing is they're moving the Legends Baltimore operations to Norfolk, which is nearby in Virginia. And then Royal Caribbean, whose Vision of Seas is also based in Baltimore, is working on new alternatives too. And also, Vision of Seas, which is currently a Southern Caribbean cruise, was back into Baltimore by April 4th, but they're moving things around too. So once again, I know that with the Carnival Legend was due back on March 31st, coming up this week on Sunday, but instead of going to Norfolk, passengers will actually, it's going to Norfolk instead of Baltimore, but passengers are being provided free bus service to Baltimore to the airport to get back to. And also, their next cruise, which departs this Sunday on March 31st, is going to be operating from and return to Norfolk, which is good. And once again, it just, as Carnival President Christine Duffy mentioned, we really appreciate the pledge that was made by President Biden to dedicate all the available resources to reopen the Baltimore Harbor. Once again, too, is in the meantime, they appreciate the quick response too from Norfolk, which is great. So once again, they've got an option too. But once again, so sad that that bridge was rammed by container ship after it lost power earlier on Tuesday. And of course, it was closed, of course, to marine traffic during rescue and immediate efforts to kind of sad once again to cruise lines. One good thing too is they're going to move the ships around too. Or also in this case where they are having the ships then go to Norfolk, I know what they're doing is they're providing free transportation for people that maybe took airfare into Baltimore, have a free transportation to get them from Norfolk back to the airport in Baltimore. So definitely keep them in your prayers and thoughts too. It's just such sad news, but once again, they work together; they'll get through it. Okay, and I think it goes back to what's interesting too is cruise lines for years originally started in sailing out of Port Miami. That's where the cruise industry really began over 50 years ago. I know Carnival Cruise Line just celebrated their 52nd anniversary. Yes, 52 years is when Carnival started. 52 years ago, and Port Miami was actually the key place. Then they've expanded, and the good thing about expansion is it gives them more opportunities. So if something comes up, they can move the ships around if need to and have to. And once again, of course, a big one right now is Galveston, Texas. That's where the Carnival Jubilee just was christened about a month ago. And she's sailing out of Galveston, Texas year long, which is great. And I know that with the Galveston port that Carnival Jubilee is sailing out of, they did a major renovation there too, which is great. So once again, you've got options out there. We've got options sailing out of the U.S., of course, which include, of course, Port Miami, Port Everglades, which is in Fort Lauderdale. You've got Port Canaveral, which is about an hour and a half maybe of the way from Orlando, which is great. Also, you've got Galveston, Texas, and you've got, of course, Seattle, besides Vancouver, which offer cruises to Alaska. And then you've got, of course, New York City, which is great, and they've expanded that too. I was actually on the Meraviglia last year, and they just brought the Meraviglia over from Europe, which is part of MSC Cruises ships. and she's sailing year round from New York City, which is great. And more options, of course, on the East Coast too. But just it's good to kind of make sure that we know that there are other options out there too, of course. And another one, of course, is definitely think about river cruises. They're going like crazy, and I really think it fits a good need because once again, when river cruising started, my gosh, maybe 25 years ago, more than that, maybe. But what happened was they've grown like crazy, but we've got a lot of different opportunities out there. And once again, with the river cruises over in Europe, they really do phenomenal things. They are smaller ships because they go to the rivers, and they offer different places to go to too, which is great. And we've got some fantastic river cruise lines out there. One I really admire so much is AMA Waterways. Yes, Rudy Schreiner actually started that with Kristen Carnes, and then another professional came in with him too. But Rudy is actually known as the architect of river cruising. He's got a great, fantastic story. He was actually an architect over in Europe, yes, came to the U.S. on a project, and then he actually was working on a project down in South America, and he built a raft on the Amazon River, okay? He came back to the United States, relocated to New Orleans, and it turns out he did his master's in business administration at Loyola University of New Orleans, which is great because I did my MBA at Loyola in Chicago, so we're alumni, yes. But they actually helped start different route cruise lines too. I think one was actually Viking, and then moved on to actually start AMA Waterways with Christine Karts and also Mr. Murphy too. But they've been very successful over 22 years. I think they've got 26, 27 different ships. But it's just great to know what they're doing too, because people need to know about options as far as river cruising. I've not taken a river cruise over here myself too. I want to so much now because once again, we've got, of course, river cruises, of course, which is great because I know that with Waterways, of course, I think they've got 26, 27 ships right now, river ships. Another one that is relatively new is Riverside Luxury Cruises, and they just actually christened their newest ship at this past maybe a week or two ago, but it was at this ASTA's American Society of Travel Advisors. ASTA did their third annual river cruising event over in Europe, and that's actually where Riverside Luxury Cruises christened their newest ship too, and it's sailing right now. Something else too is I know the Interworld Boutique River Cruises, and what they do is they're actually, I think, launching a new ship next year, but they've actually chartered a ship too. So once again, there's so many options out there, and the point is with the Riverside Debussy, that's how it was just launched, of course, christened this past month at the ASTA International Cruise Conference over in Europe too, and that was good too because once again, I know that Viking, they're launching their Viking Heather, and I believe that's going to be coming up this year. It's part of their plan to actually add one ship in Egypt each year from 2023 to 2025. And they mentioned more about the 85 guest Heather. She's sailing on the Nile River on a 12-day Pharaoh and Pyramids itinerary, which includes a week on board the ship, which is great. And then also they've got some bookend dates touring in Cairo. And once again, too, the Harther is actually an identical ship to the Viking Aton and Viking Osiris, which is great too. So just keep that in mind because once again, there's so many options out there as far as river cruising over in Europe. Something else that came up too is, of course, you can take river cruises in the United States. That would be with American Cruise Lines. They've been around for over 30 years. They're family owned, and they actually have their own company that builds their ships. It's Chesapeake is their company that builds the ships. It's family owned too, and great people there too. And they offer some options to actually sail in the U.S. of river cruises too, going on U.S. river cruises too, which is great. So definitely keep that in mind because there's so many options out there too. We automatically I think about, of course, with cruising, you think about, okay, ships out of Miami, Port Everglades. You think about maybe Tampa, East Coast, maybe, of course, with Galveston too. But once again, too, it goes back to so many options out there as far as different ways to cruise too. And also, you can actually take cruises, of course, that go to Tahiti, of course, Papeete. A friend of mine just did that on Crystal himself with his brother. It was great. He shared experiences with me too, which is great. But once again, too, is Avalon Waterways. I know that at the ASTA River Cruise Expo in Amsterdam, their new ship was sailing on the Douro, and they're offering some really, really innovative Europe itineraries too, which is great too. And like I said, I'll share more with that too. But Avalon Waterways is another great river cruise line, and it's actually owned by the Globus Group, okay, which Globus handles different companies too. So definitely keep that in mind because once again, we've got so many options out there too. We've got, of course, Amadeus. They've got their Amadeus River Cruises too, which is great. And I know they just introducing their new Amadeus Nova. Not sure when it came out, if it's come out yet. I'll know more about that later on too. Of course, Avalon Waterways is another spectacular cruise line too. And I know what they're doing is they've got 2 riverboats scheduled in this year. One's going to be in Colombia, and the other is going to be in Egypt. And with their Ama Magdalena, she's going to actually navigate Colombia's Magdalena River beginning in November this year, and the Ama Lilia will join the brand's fleet in the Nile River this month. It's March, okay? And with the Ama Magdalena, she accommodates just 60 guests. Yes, just 60 guests. And they've got some different types of balcony staterooms. They've got balcony staterooms that would be 237 square feet balcony staterooms. They've got 306 square foot luxury suites, and then they've got 516 square foot grand suites too, which is great. And once again, they've got a reception area, a lounge, a gym, a restaurant. They've got a nail and hair salon, massage room, outdoor pool. Okay, and of course, a second ship from Waterways. It's going to be sailing on the Magdalena. It's going to be called the Ama Melodia, and she's scheduled for June of next year, so 2025. And the Ama should carry a few more guests, and I think she's going to carry 82 guests, and she'll begin navigating the Nile River too. It's got 41 staterooms, and of course their renowned itinerary. If you've ever not been to Egypt, I've not been there. My parents went there, but the pictures they shared in their stories were just phenomenal. I can't imagine seeing pyramids. Just amazing things you can see in Egypt too, of course. And as mentioned, with Avalon Waterways, they just introduced the Avalon, I think it's pronounced Alegria, in March, and she's setting sail on the Douro River right now in Portugal. That's what I talked about before too. That's Avalon Waterways. Their new river ship came out, and she has 102 guests, and she's got, of course, an outdoor swimming pool. They've got an F Club lounge, and what they do is they do different things too. So definitely keep in mind too, because it's just fun to share exciting things going on in the river cruise line too. Because once again, they've got to think outside the box because there's so many options out there too. And with river cruising, of course, you do river cruises in the United States with American Cruise Lines. Okay, also over in Europe. Keep that in mind too. And of course, we've got with Riverside Luxury Cruises. I'm just so excited for them too, because what they did was they actually took over. So you don't know, maybe they took over Crystal Cruises River Cruise Line fleet of 5 vessels. Okay, And what they're doing is they just launched a new ship too. So definitely keep that in mind because that's important too. Excuse me. Something else too is with another cruise line I really mentioned too is Riviera River Cruises, and they've got a ship arriving in July. And it's called the Porto Marante, and it's of course going to be joining the Douro Elegance and the Douro Splendor, which are already sailing on Portugal's Douro River. So that's one thing about too, because you can actually take some river cruises on Portugal's Douro River. So definitely keep that in mind because with their new ship, the Porto Marante, it's got a skylit 2-level atrium, an upper bar, a lounge, a lower restaurant. They've got a fitness center, a sun deck, sky lounge, and a zero-edge splash pool. Okay, and they've also got their accommodations include 59 cabins, and they've got so what else? They've got bathroom with a rain shower, desk and chair, flat screen television, air conditioning, and more. And of course, as mentioned, Viking is launching their new ship too, coming out this year. But definitely keep these in mind because there's so many choices as far as river cruises over in Europe too, besides the U.S. You've got Riviera River Cruises, of course. You've got Viking, which been around for a long time, very successful company. One that's relatively new is actually Riverside Luxury Cruises. They actually launched last year. So this is our third ship that just came out in March, which is great. She's sailing right now too. Avalon Waterways. You've got Alma Waterways, and you've got Amadeus. So definitely keep those in mind too, because once again, so many wonderful options out there too. And maybe it's time to think outside the box because once again too, I think when the river cruising started in Europe, is maybe customized more to people that maybe were interested in Europe and maybe they were maybe retired, whatever. But in this case, with the growth with river cruises over in Europe, it's not just for older people. You see a lot of river cruises that actually can accommodate families. And I think there's a lot of growth there too. So definitely keep it in mind because once again, you don't have to be retired to think about taking a river cruise over in Europe, of course. And what I like about river cruising over in Europe, I've not done that yet. It's on my list, of course. But what they do is usually you fly the day before so you don't miss out on the sailing, of course, too. Once again, too, is their ships, of course, are all inclusive. Okay. They usually have free shore excursions, of course, too. Also, it's a great way, I think, to actually see and visit the beautiful cities in Europe. Because once again, with these Brokers Lane ships, they're small. Okay. And what they do is they actually just stop, you get off the ship, get board, whatever. They have different shore excursions that are included, of course, too. And it's just, I think, a great way to really explore these smaller cities in Europe rather than maybe taking a tour where you have to fly in, go to a hotel, then do tours. You have to then go to another hotel. I'm not saying it's bad to do that, but once again, too, I think that doing a river cruise actually gives you a better experience if you really want to see the ins and outs of these beautiful cities on these rivers in Europe. Okay. So definitely keep that in mind because I just think it's a wonderful way to really, really explore Europe and relax, of course, on the rivers. Once again, as I tell people, it's like your floating hotel on the river too, which is great too. So keep it in mind too, because once again, there's so many options out there when it comes to cruising. But I think river cruising is really, really, really more than just a hot button. It definitely creates a lot of energy and excitement. And don't forget about thinking about that maybe to do it in the next year. I definitely want to do it in the next year. I really do. It's time. Also, one thing we're seeing too is, we got different cruise lines that are high end. What they do is they do special sailings. Of course, one is Atlas Ocean Voyages, but actually successfully started in late summer of 2021. And they started sailing in Europe first. That was we're getting through the pandemic with COVID-19. They weren't even at 30% capacity, but they've been planning to do this for a long time. And what they've done too is they actually offer some special cruises that actually go to Antarctica. Okay. And another thing that's very, very popular now too, once again, with those types of cruises, once again, their ships have been built especially to navigate those areas. Okay. And they're smaller, but they navigate those areas, but they've been specially built. So definitely keep that in mind too, because once again, it just it's so important to think about that too. Okay. And then of course, Disney is a great cruise line. I sailed on Disney Cruise Line the first year they started years ago. It was great to experience it, but they've got they just did a keel laying for their third ship in their Wish class. They have cruise lines have different classes of ships. Okay, it gets kind of crazy what you think about too, but what they're doing is with Disney they call it their Wish class of ships, and Disney Cruise Line's third ship in the Wish class is going to be called the Disney Destiny. And its theme, as they theme their cruise ships too, it's going to be heroes and villains, which I think is really kind of fun. I mean, heroes and villains. Well, I like to think about heroes, not villains, but once again, the heroes rescue us from the villains, right? And what they did was they just recently did, I just mentioned it this past week, is at Meyer Werft, which is where Meyer Werft shipyard in Germany, they just laid the keel for the Destiny, the Disney Destiny, and it's scheduled for delivery in 2025. And this is going to be, of course, Disney's Cruise Line's third Wish class ship called the Disney Destiny. And what they did was, on this ship, the theme is kind of, as I mentioned, heroes and villains. But once again, guests on board can actually encounter heroes and villains from stories such as The Lion King, Hercules, 101 Dalmatians, which is great. And once again, of course, Minnie Mouse is going to be striking a valiant pose in her ensemble. And like I said, the Disney Wish was their first Wish class ship. She entered service in 2022. And of course, the Disney Treasure, which is coming up this year, will debut this December of 2024. So the Disney Treasure, which I think is great. And of course, they've also got, like I said, the Disney, it's going to be delivered, the Disney Adventure. It's going to sail in Singapore. And I know that Disney also acquired another ship from another company too. I'll share about that later too. But once again, we have the Disney Treasure coming out in December 21st of this year, 2024. So that's great too. Something else I want to talk about too is we have, of course, when you think about people that actually drive the ships, they're captains, okay? But driving the ships are captains. But once again, you don't often see women captains of cruise line ships. Now, one that I've mentioned before is actually Captain Kate McHugh. She's actually the first American woman captain of a cruise line ship with Celebrity Cruises. I met her. She's gorgeous. She's got social media channels. She has her cat aboard the ship. Her cat's name is Bug. Her social media channel for her cat is called Bug Naked because it doesn't have a lot of fur. But Captain Kate McHugh is a great example of an American woman who actually was able to become a captain and with Celebrity Cruises. Celebrity Cruises actually is the first one that has the highest percentage of women that work on the bridge. Okay, I think theirs is maybe 32% of the staff that work on the bridge are females, where normally in the industry is maybe about 2%. But something that came up too is with Cunard Line, they have their new ship coming out on, I think, May 5th, maybe. But what they're doing, it's called the Queen Anne. I'm currently working on an article about the Queen Anne because it sounds fantastic. But with the Queen Anne, I do know that what they did was they just did a big article. What they're doing is Cunard is designing some new uniforms, okay? And they actually have teamed up with Her name is Seville Rowe. She's a master tailor to design and create their blue-white uniforms. And the uniforms that she's designing have British design and style, the heritage and prestige. And once again, what I didn't realize is they just did an article about her, and Cunard Line captain for the Queen Anne is going to be actually Inger Thornhog. And she's going to be the helm of the Queen Anne, which is going to be launching in May. But once again, we have a female captain for Cunard Line. So I think that's really, really great. And this just interesting as far as what they're doing as far as updating their uniforms too, which is great. You don't think about that too, but once again, it's great to learn about another woman that is actually going to be driving the ship, so to speak, captain of Cunard Line's new Queen Anne coming out this May. Cunard captain Inger Thornhog. I think I pronounced it correctly. That's great too. But once again, such great news to hear about this too, because once again, so many fun things to talk about too. I know that with something that came out too is with like I said, new ships coming out. I mentioned before in 2024, of course. I ran across an article called "Cruising's New Kids on the Block for 2024." Well, they're ships, okay, not kids on the block. They're ships. But once again, we've got new designs, of course, too. And what's good too, people are not aware of, but half of these new ships are actually LNG powered, liquefied natural gas. And that is something that actually the cruise industry is moving very, very forward on too. They have a goal in the cruise industry. The Cruise Lines International Association has a goal to have all the ships operated by liquefied natural gas by 2050. But I'll tell you what, that'll be done before 2050. Okay, new ships coming up, they're all being operated by liquefied natural gas, which is much better for the environment too. And I know that with the ones that are new ones that came out, they're LNG powered. The Sun Princess, which just came out. Utopia Seas is coming out this summer. That is Royal Caribbean's new ship coming out later this summer. We've got the Disney Treasure coming out this December. Another one is Silver Sea Cruises Silver. I think that's coming out later this year in March or I think May, maybe June or July. And also, like I said, the Sun Princess just came out, got a new design, of course. And I mentioned a little bit about the Queen Anne having, of course, a female captain. And it's actually the first ship in over a dozen years. And with the Queen Anne, it's actually she's only slightly larger than their two other ships, the Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria. But the Queen Anne will be it'll be 1,065 feet long versus 965 feet long with the Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria. And she will actually be carrying about 900 more guests. But once again, too, it's just beautiful, too. And another ship coming up, too, is Ritz-Carlton Yachts. And they've got their, I think it's pronounced Ilma, is coming out and this year. Of course, coming out later on this summer is Royal Caribbean's. They've got Utopia of the Seas. And in this case, it is their Oasis class ship. Okay. And what's good too is she's going to actually be offering 3 and 4 night cruises. And the first to really offer 3 4 night cruises. And why do that? Maybe if you've never taken a cruise, maybe you're a little hesitant, but it's good to really, I think, kind of maybe try it out and see if you like it. In fact, that's how I actually got hooked onto cruising. I took a 3 night cruise years and years ago, and I fell in love with cruising. Next cruise I took was an 8 night cruise, and I tell you what, I really like doing. My preferred number of days would be at least 8 to 10 night cruises. I love them because I just love the ocean and just relaxing and just a wonderful place you go to. Plus, on board the ship, there's so much to do too. So, once again, with the Utopia of the Seas, she'll be debuting later on this summer. She's got, like I said, 3 and 4 night cruises. Will have 5 pools. What I think is fun too, she's got a poolside food truck. Yes, And don't worry, the food truck won't drive off the ship, okay? That's a joke. But she has a poolside food truck. They've got, this is fun too, they got the new Pesky Parrot Caribbean Tiki Bar, okay? Pesky Parrot Caribbean Tiki Bar. And they've got this ultimate Abbas dry slide ride. It's got the new Zoom Boaster rollers and transparent racing windows. Also for dining, which I think is fun too, they've got their new locomotive journey. Okay, once again, locomotive journey immediately attracts my attention. I think it's really fun. And you get experience, but you're really just not on a locomotive on board the ship. Okay, but it takes you different places, but it's all virtual, which is great too. Something else they've got is they've got Giovanni's Italian Kitchen and Wine Bar. It actually spans 2 different levels on the ship. It's got a cantilevered alfresco terrace, which I think is beautiful. They've also got zooming in the park, and this got a beautiful window in Central Park area too. Central Park is the main area too, but once again, I think it's just fun to think about Utopia this season, the fun things you're going to have. She'll have the poolside food truck. She's got this new locomotive journey, actually for dining experiences too, which is great. And of course, we've got Viking Cruise Line. Mentioned Viking Vila's coming out. And she's going to be, let's see, a little bit bigger than their other ships, but not too much bigger. Okay. Her gross register tonnage is just 48,900 tons, up from maybe 47,800 gross registered tons too, which is great. And of course, we've got Explorer Journeys, which is great. Explorer 2 is coming out this year too. And Explorer Journeys, more about them is they're actually a cruise line that's under the MSC Group. MSC Group has MSC Cruises, which is great, beautiful ships, wonderful experiences too. And they've also got, of course, their Explorer Journeys, which launched last year. Their luxury, their whole mindset is bringing ocean life to sea, which is great. They've also got their MSC Foundation, and of course, they've got their container shipping coming, which they have had for years, and they're family owned. But the Explorer 2 is coming out. It's going to be about the same size. She'll have a great, beautiful retractable glass roof. 64 cabanas. They've got 9 restaurants. They've got an indoor-outdoor spa, wellness facilities too. And of course, Silver Ray, which is part of Silver Sea Cruises. It's a new ship, and it's a sister ship of the Silver Nova. And Silver Ray is going to be using liquefied natural gas, and of course, battery powered at sea. And also, they've got the Marquis Fresco dining venue, also Ocean View. They call it SALT, S-A-L-T, but it's their SALT lab. It's actually a different way of cuisine too. They're doing too. I'll talk about that in a different episode too. And of course, we've got, of course, coming up too is with Virgin Voyages. That's Bridger Branson's cruise line. And their new ship coming out is the Brilliant Lady. And she's their 4th ship in their Lady series of ships. These include the Scarlet Lady, which actually came out in 2021. Then the Valiant Lady, the Resilient Lady, and of course, Brilliant Lady was supposed to come out last year, but it was delayed. But once again, she's coming out, of course, this year. Okay, and I know that with the different things you do too is once again with Virgin Voyages, it's definitely one to think about too, because once again, you have to be 18 years and older to sail on Virgin Voyages. They had originally started their commercials, which we've seen before, their TV things where they have no kids allowed, no kids at sea kind of thing, and the kids are kind of teary-eyed as their parents are sailing away and we can't go. But I had a chance to actually visit and be aboard the Scarlet Lady back in fall of 2021 when she finally came to Port Miami to start sailing. It was beautiful to experience the ship and see it. Once again, they had multiple restaurants to dine at. The shows were phenomenal. It was just so beautiful. What I like too is they didn't just they with different things. They don't have a main dining room. Okay, not that those are bad, but sometimes the main dining rooms it's fine. But once again, too, with what Virgin Voyages is doing, they really have a different pulse. What they do too is, of course, Richard Branson never actually sailed on a cruise before and decided to come up with Virgin Voyages. And what they do is they actually call their guests sailors. Right. So you're a sailor sailing on Virgin Voyages, which is great. And once again, but they've got different alternate restaurants on board the ship. They're included. Just pick and choose. The restaurant I had was just fantastic. The shows were phenomenal. But once again, there's so much to do too. One thing I liked too is they had a special ice cream parlor, and it was called Lick Me Till. And the ice cream was just phenomenal. I mean, I like ice cream, but this was absolutely phenomenal. And you could have as much as you wanted to. You just had little scoops, came back, got more scoops, but it's called Lick Me Till, which I think is really kind of fun. And once again, it just goes back to I really think it's beautiful is what they're doing as far as Virgin Voyages. Just another option to think about too, especially if you don't want to be around kids. Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds very amazing. I was actually don't have as many videos this time, but I did find this interesting article that I was going to share with you. Is actually from Port Seattle. And we do know that there are these various ports, and you were talking about women in the industry and all along those lines. And this particular article was actually celebrating two women that were making history in the maritime industry, and they actually gave some advice and all along those lines. So one of them was named Genevieve Plarucki. I think I'm pronouncing that name and everything, but she is the capital program leader of the waterfront program management there in Seattle and all along those lines. And there was another one named Shelby Allman, who is the harbor operations supervisor of recreational boating and all in that space. I may pull up the article and show you some pictures of them at work, but they had some interesting advice. So I was going to read their advice from this particular article that I found, which is on portseattle.org. And they had some advice for folks that are interested in getting into the maritime industry. So Genevieve has said that what advice would she have for women considering a career in maritime? I would say give it a try. An internship or an apprenticeship would be a great way to do that. There are so many career paths to pick from. I have seen many positive changes for women in this field since I started. I have I like looking at old sets of plans, and at the time, at the names of those who worked on them, I can only imagine how surprised they would be to find so many women on the project teams today. And then Shelby, who's with Harbor Operations, when she was asked a similar question, said that do it, take the extra tack, rent the rowboat, apply for that job. My best advice for women is to just go out there, take the opportunities when presented, and view mistakes as just that, a mistake. And then she talks about an organization, and maybe you know about this organization, but there are WOW, which stands for Women on the Water events happening in Seattle for most of the year, and local women-owned maritime social media accounts you can follow to be in the loop. There's a whole other world of opportunities out there for women. Take the leap. In the words of one of the most amazing people in maritime I know, say yes to that boat ride with a proper PFD, whatever a PFD is, and all in that space. But that is some of the advice that those two women were given on Women's History Month. And like I said, I'll see if I can do a share screen and show you pictures of these two amazing women that were given that advice, because they're in another part of the boat industry. Because like I said, you were talking about the captains, but you've also got to have people that are doing the harbor jobs and even some of the engineering jobs, which is what these two individuals are doing. So I don't know your thoughts, because it is Women's History Month, and like you said, there are a number of women that are working a number of jobs in the maritime industry and all along those lines. So like I said, I'm going to try to put up the picture so we can see the pictures of the two women that I was referring to as well in this particular article, and folks can go to the article and check it out. But what is your thoughts about this notion of women working in a variety of jobs and not just being the captains? Definitely no slight on Captain McHugh and the other captains that you have mentioned and all along those lines, but definitely there are a number of types of jobs that are out there and all in that space. So like I said, this is Miss Genevieve, and like I said, she has got one of those jobs that I was referring to in that space, because she is the capital program leader of waterfront project management in that area and all in that space. And then this is Shelby Allman, who is the harbor operations supervisor of recreational boating and all in that way. So, hey, there's all kinds of jobs that you lady folks can get in the maritime industry.
There are. And the fun thing is, One example, because I'm currently updating my book about women cruise line presidents. Yes, I plan to get that done by the end of this summer. They've got new women cruise line presidents. I've interviewed 2 of them and now working on some other ones too and updating other chapters about women still in the industry. But they got great stories and inspirational stories. And a good example, of course, is with Kristen Karntz. She's my first book, okay, but she's a co-founder, co-owner of Alma Waterways. And she actually grew up in Germany. Great story. I'm updating her chapter right now. I just got questions off to their PR people within Alma Waterways. But once again, she actually worked in Germany, of course, and that's when we saw the Berlin Wall. She worked for some kind of an agency when she was 16 years old, did all kinds of different things. And then she decided to maybe get in the industry. Then she went to school, and now she ended up working for American Express. And then, of course, when the Berlin Wall fell apart, she was able to, because that's when the east and west part of Germany separated now, it opened up the world. And she ended up getting a job with American Express, moved around. She finally got a job with American Express working in Zurich, Switzerland. And some other roles came up. Then she actually came over to the United States, made a bit of a risk to come to the United States to work for American Express in California. And then she actually found a job with posted by Viking Cruises and got a job there. And that's how she met Rudy Schreiner, who actually co-founded it. And they started working on an idea to start Alma Waterways together. And they've been successful over 22 years. And
Wow.
Amazing stories like this too. And so I'm updating her chapter right now. Another relatively new person is Laura Hodges Bashee. She's actually the relatively new president of Celebrity Cruises. She started there in May this last year. I met her on the pre-christening of the ship, Celebrity Ascent. Great stories. And another new one, of course, is Barbara Muckerman, who became president of Silversea Cruises last January 2023. Another one is Elena DeMarcos, who is the president of Region 7 Seas. I interviewed her back last spring. I'm working on her chapter. We've got new women cruise line presidents. They got great stories. Once again, it's like, another one is Pam Hoffey. She is the president of Avalon Waterways. She became president of Avalon Waterways in 2022. I worked there, but when the president decided to retire, she moved up in the role. I've talked to her. She's a great person. And they just launched a new ship too. But they got great stories. And once again, it goes back to, think about how to get jobs with the cruise industry. One thing coming up too that I'm really excited about too is I'm attending Sea Trade Cruise Global Conference. It's coming up on April 8th to the 11th. It's an amazing conference. I'm going to see so many phenomenal people. I've already got registered for different press events too. But once again, too, is there are different sessions. And one of the sessions they're actually doing is about ways to actually get in the industry, which is great. And my dear friend Rick Sasso is actually chairman of MSC Cruises USA, is going to be the opening speaker for this event. And they're going to be talking about different things to do as far as getting in the industry, different roles too. So I'm really excited about attending that to see what they share, because it's good to share these kinds of things. And once again, too, is there's so many options out there as far as positions on board cruise ships too.
Yeah, there's lots of options even on the cruise ship and everything. There's a major holiday that is taking place on Sunday. Today is actually Good Friday, which is part of that holiday and everything. So I was just wondering if you have been on cruises during Easter. And of course, ironically, or some people may consider it ironic and all in that space, their Easter Monday will also be falling on a day that some of our pranksters like to be involved in, which is April Fool's Day, and all in that space on this particular year and all in that space. So I was just wondering, do they ever have pranks going on the ships and all along those lines on April Fool's Day? And also, have you been on ships where people have been doing Easter celebrations?
I've been on the Easter celebration. I did do a cruise. It was a while back in 2016. I did a cruise on Crystal Cruises when she's still around. But the fun thing is it just kind of came up accidentally. And say on New Orleans, it was a 14-night cruise. But the good thing is didn't have to take up too many days from work because it was also over Thanksgiving. So I had a chance to actually sail on the ship. We did a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner. It was a Thanksgiving Day type thing. It was really beautiful. We sailed down the Mississippi. We would go to different places in the Caribbean, places I've been to. One was St. Bartholomew, which is beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. But some places I've not been to, other places I've been there. But that was fun. You know, I mean, to actually sail out, we did. We had to be on the ship a day before, and we didn't sail out until Wednesday. Of course, Thanksgiving was Thursday, so it was really good. Plus, the fun thing is, I had a cousin not seen in years. She relocated to New Orleans, and I hadn't seen her in years. And was able to find out that yes, I could have her on board the ship for dinner to meet with us because we weren't seeing her next day. And she and her husband do like a lot of traveling. That's great too. In fact, they both have PhDs. He did finally retire, but she's still working. She's a lot younger, but anyway, he'd always say have to follow what the doctor says, right? But I had a chance to have them come over the ship for dinner to explore the ship too after dinner too. They really enjoyed it too, which is great too. So, but being on a cruise ship for Thanksgiving was really interesting. It was fun.
It sounds like it would be fun.
As far as your question about April 1st, it's not one of my favorite holidays. Okay. Couple reasons. Two I won't mention, but one that came up too is in 2022, I was actually attending this conference. It's the Cruise Lines International Association conference. I'm doing that one later on in April after Seatrade. But what happened was the conference really ended on Friday, April 1st, right? Well, everything was done. So I was flying back that night. So I checked in the hotel, went across the street to the convention center to finish the conference that day. And I got a phone call about 12 noon from the airline. And they said they canceled my flight that night. They put me on flights the next day. Didn't explain why. I called and was on hold for an hour. She said, no, we can't do anything. We're putting you on 2 flights the next day. I didn't say why. Well, meantime, I had actually checked a hotel. The point is, it was a convention conference thing. Hotels were booked up. Thank goodness I had a friend that was actually there for the conference too. She was staying a couple of days. She said, room with me. I paid her half down for the money. Got up 6:30 in the morning, studying text messages. There were delaying flights. Went to the airport real quick. I stood in line for over an hour. They put me on 3 connecting flights. And I finally got back on April 3rd. I've never seen so many flights canceled. And that would happen the night before because it wasn't weather. I mean, I don't know. But what happened was I finally got back about 4 o'clock in the morning on April 3rd. And the article I wrote, just very transparent, didn't mention the airline because I've never seen so many airlines cancel flights on April 2nd and April 1st. What I did was the article was titled My April Fool's Day Reality.
Oh, wow.
Flight cancellations, delays. I mean, I finally got back, but it was just crazy stuff because once again, I don't know what happened. It seemed like it was weather. Sometimes I've been in weather situations where we actually had to land a different airport. They came up with me something else too. It came up for me when I was attending a conference, but kind of crazy. Like I said, April Fool's Day is not my favorite holiday because I never want to go through that again. And 2 other things came up. Won't mention that. I don't like April Fool's Day, but
yeah, a lot of people don't like April Fool's Day. I can definitely relate to that because sometimes people are trying to play crazy pranks and everything along those lines. I'm sure that even on boats, there may be folks trying to play pranks and everything, but definitely it is one of those crazy holidays that people like to enjoy, having a little bit of tomfoolery and all in that space.
Yeah. But like I said, going back to Seatrade is a phenomenal conference. Oh my gosh, I just love it. I've been going there for several years, and it's back, of course, at the Miami Beach Convention Center, which is beautiful. And what's great too is you've got a lot of different choices of hotels. So I found a hotel I stayed at before. It's not really expensive, but it's like 2 blocks away. Plus, you can walk different places. There's one great place, a lot of places to go for dinner. Hotel's kind of old. It fits my budget. But the point is, too, I'm not going to be there long. Not be there during the day. I'm at the conference, whatever, doing things at night, special receptions and things too. But once again, too, is there's some great restaurants, and one's called Havana 1957. It's Cuban cuisine, but it's wonderful.
Hey, along those same lines, because you brought up an interesting point, I don't know the answer, but you study the cruise industry and definitely know it better than I would. I know that there are things like Priceline and others that talk about deals, but in your own experience, has there been hotels or accommodations, even bed and breakfasts that have done a better job with the cruise lines. Because when I think of cruises, that's one big floating hotel, but sometimes you might need to stay at a place before you get on the boat and everything. So I didn't know whether it's Holiday Inn or whether it's a bed and breakfast or whether it's a Radisson or a number of other kind of hotel chains that I could go down and listen, even the Motel Sixes and everything. Is there a certain kind of hotel or a certain type of business in that space that have very positive relationships with the various cruise industries?
A good question, because the good thing is too is I know that I had this happen one time. Didn't miss a ship, but once again something came up a long time ago, and I was flying down for a cruise with my late husband at the time, and what happened was he's dropping the car, didn't get to the right gate. We were able to go on the next flight. Thank us we did that. We still got down to the Miami in time to get on the ship. But the point is, I always tell people, number one, it's good to maybe fly the day before. So if you have issues, you're not moving out. Also, make sure you take the first flight down if you're flying on the same day. But I always tell people it's good because that's one thing they do with European cruises. The river cruises over in Europe, you fly the day before. It's a given, which makes more sense because once again, we have different issues with flights getting canceled like crazy. It's a little bit better now than it was before, but the point is, it's better to get in the day before, okay, and then find a hotel to stay at. Different choices. I know that sometimes cruise lines have some suggestions too, but also another option too is definitely try and work with a great travel advisor.
Right.
They can help you.
Is there a relationship? Because I know that even here, because in where I'm at in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina, there is definitely sometimes people that will be flying and they'll get jammed up, like something will happen weather-wise or something else will happen, and sometimes they are put up by the airlines in the various hotels because they have worked out an agreement with certain hotels in that space. So I didn't know, do the cruise lines ever do that where there might be some turbulent weather and maybe the ship can't take off in time, so they have to put the people up in a hotel until they can actually take off in the cruise that they are hoping to go on? Is that an arrangement that takes place in the cruise industry? I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking the question.
Sure. That's a good question. I'm not sure because normally what they do too is they will let you know, but the point is, there's bad weather. They let you know in advance too, of course. Like I said, I know that one thing about cruise ships too is if like a hurricane's coming, they let you know in advance. They might have to actually, a good example of the hurricanes, but the thing is they would, a long time ago, one was coming and they actually canceled cruises. And they also got their people out of their offices too when the hurricane was coming up, because they get support staff in different places of the country too. But it's good to know because, sometimes that situation that came up with me too, I was actually flying from my cruise in 2022 in May at a later night flight because I couldn't find a nonstop flight earlier, and got on the flight. We were actually on the runway for an hour. Oh. And at a connecting flight, I talked to the flight attendants. They said, no. When we land in Baltimore, just make sure that you are able to get off a flight, get your gate. Well, it turned out that there's so many people, I couldn't get out of the airplane. And they already sent me a text message that they rebooked me the next morning. What am I to do? I'm stuck. 10 o'clock at night, I'm stuck at the airport. What am I supposed to do till the next morning, And the airline should have done something for me. They didn't because the flight got misconnected too for me. What happened in my case, I did find a hotel, went to the hotel, got there 11 o'clock at night, got up early morning, like 3:30 in the morning, get to the airport again. And then when I quietly checked with somebody from the airline, she said, no, they should have covered you. Let me know. But in the meantime, I had taken travel insurance. So what I did was I sent my receipt to the travel insurance company. I got reimbursed the hotel costs myself within like 2 weeks. But what happened was there were so many people cancel with missed flights due to these misconnections. The airline should have covered it, and they didn't. Right. But number one, definitely use a travel advisor because it can help you get through things too, and also definitely take insurance. And if you are taking a cruise, it's best to maybe think about going the day before. So if something comes up, if something comes up with your flight, if you're flying out the same day, you might misconnect. Something came up, you miss the ship, and you got to play catch up. at your own expense. In this case, flying a day before, which is much better. And you can relax a little bit too. Because what I'm doing right now, Seatrade Cruise Global Conference is coming up April 8th. It's on Monday through Thursday. What I decided to do was, the flight I had before was going to be flying out at 5 o'clock in the morning. I kept changing my flight departure time. I was going to get down to Miami at 9 o'clock, but the point is, things are starting like 9, 10 o'clock. So I thought, what I did was, I went back to the airline. I was able to just change my flight to Sunday afternoon. It's only $15 more. That's not bad at all. I got another night for the hotel. That way I'm flying the day before, in the afternoon, get there evening, relax, get up early, go to the convention center, and be able to hit the road like crazy as far as the conferences rate too, which is great.
Sounds like it. Sounds very amazing. Sounds like some great things going in that space and everything in that way and all along those lines. You're into get off and everything. Maybe we'll go out whenever you're ready with that long 5-minute video about Captain Kate McHugh, the Meet Captain Kate McHugh, since we were talking about Women's History Month. So maybe we'll have that one, Sharon, to get us off. But I'll let you do the closeout, and then we'll close out with that particular video, since I didn't have that many new ones this time. We'll close out with that one in celebration of Women's History Month.
Great. Thank you so much. Something else too is we were talking about, flying day before. Definitely with river cruises over in Europe, they usually kind of mandate that it's much better to get over to Europe, because the flight from here to Europe is a long flight. So it's best to get in the day before. But what they're doing too is, I know that with AMA Waterways, what they did was they were kind of responding to this increased demand for longer, more immersive vacations. But what they did was they announced that they're having an offer of complimentary pre- and post-cruise land packages on select European cruises in 2024, this year, as well as 2025. And these complimentary land packages, you had to book by a certain period. But once again, they had a variety of different 2, 3, and 4-night land packages as an extension to your vacation, which is great. And once again, gives you another way to really, really, really kind of experience Europe in different places too. And a couple I found too is, I know that they had some that are going to be some company land package that going to be offered for the French Riviera, which is Nice and Monaco. They've got one that was in Italy. Another one was actually Basque Country in Spain. Another was actually Prague, which is the Czechoslovakian Republic too. But once again, it was just another way to kind of extend your stay and pre- and post-cruise, which is great too. So once again, too, it just goes back to, especially if you're thinking about sailing out more than ever. I mean, we've gotten through the hassles with the flight cancellations, delays like crazy. We've finally gotten through that, which is great, but you never know what's going to happen, okay? So it's good, honestly, to definitely fly in the day before. Find a hotel to stay at that you can relax that night, then get on a ship the next morning. Usually they actually start embarkation after 12 noon, 1 o'clock, but definitely keep that in mind. Also, purchase travel insurance. There's great companies out there. I love Allianz, which is great. I know there's Travel Guard, but they're great companies. It's a good way to kind of protect yourself too, because unexpected things come up. One time in a situation where I had flown down for a cruise, and this guy came outside to check my bags, didn't check it. When I got down to the airport, get my luggage wasn't there. They routed to the wrong airport. Thank goodness I got there early enough. I actually went in a car. My friend said I got the car, went to Sawgrass Mills. I picked up different clothes to wear too, because my luggage wasn't going to be delivered for a couple of days. But definitely think about that too. So definitely, number one, use a travel advisor. They can help you. They know everything you need to do to take travel insurance. And if you are taking a cruise, make sure you do fly in, if you can, the day before. Otherwise, take the first nonstop flight down, because you know what's going to happen too. So definitely keep in mind. And then once again, too, is because we were talking about Women's International Day too, but also just women leading in the travel industry too, which is great too. And besides having women cruise line presidents, they are actually, of course, presidents, major cruise lines. I'll share my updated book coming up this August. But we've got fantastic people in the industry I've known for years. Christine Duffy, Carnival Cruise Line president, who was too short to be a flight attendant years ago. I've got a chapter about Kristen Carnes, the co-founder of AMA Waterways, fantastic person. Another one is Jan Schwartz, the former President Princess Cruises, who moved up different roles too. And we've got, of course, Silversea Cruises and manning her. She's Barbara Muckerman. Regent Seven Seas, Women Cruise Line President. And also with Laura Hodges Best, she's the president of Celebrity Cruises. But we've got amazing women that are actually presidents of well-known cruise lines, and people don't know that, but they got great stories, very inspirational. They love what they do. And just good to share that too. Besides, we have seen a lot more people working on ships that are females too, including, of course, someone like Captain Kate McHugh too, which is great. And she's got a great story.
If you've ever sailed on a cruise ship, you could almost count on the fact that the captain and the officers would almost always be male. It was part of the culture, in fact, a seagoing tradition. So much so that the captain seemed almost out of central casting. Their images of command and control were often used to sell cruises. Their photos featured prominently in cruise ship catalogs. And then, about 4 years ago, a new captain came on board.
Pilot Ezekan, 198.
The first American woman to command a cruise ship. And she has a compelling story to tell. Her name, Kate McHugh.
I got interested in becoming a captain when I went on my first cruise at 12 years old. And when we got off the ship and we were packing the car to drive home, I said to my dad, I know what I want to be when I grow up. And he said, what's that? I said, you know the person that plans all the fun events on board the ship? He said, yeah. The cruise director? I said, yeah. He said, well, you could do anything you want, including drive the thing. And that's where the seed was planted. And so I started school at 17. I went to California Maritime Academy, and 19 years later, I was given my very first command of the Celebrity Summit in 2015.
And then, when Celebrity Cruise Lines introduced its newest ship, the Edge, it wasn't long before they announced its captain.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your Captain Kate speaking from the bridge.
Captain Kate, as she's called, is a no-nonsense, hands-on commander.
Because of the flood, and I'll be using 3 bow thrusters, and we'll have 4 engines online just like we had for arrival this morning.
And you can find her just about everywhere on the ship. Not just meeting with passengers during formal onboard events, but having extended conversations with them. She's not just the captain, but also celebrities' goodwill ambassador.
Hi! How cute are you?
But some passengers are still coming to grips with the idea that the captain is a woman.
I actually had a woman who I was in the shops, and she came up and she asked me if I could help her with a watch because she assumed that I worked in the shops. And in the end, I sold her a watch, and when I walked away, she still didn't know that I was the captain.
Maybe she'll be watching now and she'll figure it out.
That'd be funny. We could.
Smile, Brianna.
Awesome.
But the Celebrity Cruise Line CEO, Lisa Lutoff-Hurlo, there's nothing funny about Kate's responsibilities.
She's a very serious nautical navigator, yes.
I mean, this is a $1.2 billion piece of equipment.
Yes, it is. And she is responsible for the lives of our crew and our guests. And that is almost 4,500 people. And that is a serious job. And I've not met anyone, men or woman, who does it like Kate.
You have a special friend on board.
I do. I always travel with 3 things. My Louboutin shoes, my mermaid tail, and my naked cat, Bug Naked.
Could you please explain that?
The Louboutins are my standard uniform issue. The mermaid tail is something that I use when I go out in port. It kind of pushes me to experience the ports a little bit differently than normal. And then Bug Naked, my naked cat, she's like having family around 24/7.
Wait a second, get a cat. I want a picture of this. Here, please.
And this is no ordinary feline. Captain Kate makes sure Bug Naked is always dressed for the occasion.
This is the gang, everybody.
On the cruise I was on, there were 2 special passengers on board. Kate's parents and her father, especially proud that his daughter is now considered a trailblazer.
Cool.
What do you think Kate being a captain says?
Oh, sky's the limit.
You wanted to do that,
I was too old when I applied.
but you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
So now you get to live your dream.
Of course, you know, you get to live vicariously.
and get emotional.
And what about that small percentage of captains who are women?
Well, we already have just about 20% of our bridge as women now, but we continue to increase the number of women. We continue to recruit. We're not stopping at 22%. I'd like to get into the mid-30s. I'm not sure if we'll ever get to 50%, just because, again,
The talent pool's not there
the
yet.
talent pool is not there yet.
But that percentage of female officers changed dramatically recently. On March 8th, in support of International Women's Day, the Edge sailed into Fort Lauderdale on her regular schedule with Captain Kate in command. What was different? For the first time ever, the entire complement of ship's officers, all 27, were women.
So we have enough to actually woe-man the ship.
Can I hear that again?
We will woe-man the ship.
With 100%.
100%, yeah.
That's making a statement.
It is. It is. And honestly, I look forward to the day where it's not a female captain, it's just captain.